Today's Friday, April 25th, and things are real bad in Arkansas, y'all. That is a state that went almost 65% for Donald Trump in the 2024 election, and they are suffering mightily right now directly as a result of Trump policies. And I want to talk about it, but I want to make it clear that this is not a fuck around and find out video. There is no schadenfreude here. There's no delight in what is happening. So first of all, when you look at a red state and you see the ways that Trump is hurting them, and you think, well, they're facing the natural consequences of their actions. They are getting exactly what they voted for. I want you to remember that 25, 35, 45% of the populations in those states did not vote for this, do not support this, but they are suffering nonetheless. I also want you to remember that not a single child in the United States of America voted for the Trump regime, and yet they will suffer more than any other demographic. That Trump and Musk and RFK, they are going for our kids present and their future. So when you're listening to what I'm about to tell you, I want you to keep that in mind. You might have heard about the Guardian's piece yesterday, April 24th. A lot of big creators covered it. It's entitled, "Trump Denies Aid for Arkansas After Storms That Killed More Than 40 People." Latest denial of disaster funding comes as Trump has repeatedly stated that he wants to eliminate FEMA. For folks outside the United States, FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They help disperse funds and get people emergency housing, loans for rebuilding their houses, emergency food and medical aid to areas within the United States that experience natural disasters like the flooding we're seeing in Arkansas now. Right, that's a very good and necessary thing that our tax dollars should be funding emergency relief in the wake of natural disasters. But Trump, he wants to do away with all of that. He wants to take that money instead and put it into the pockets of billionaires. I want to briefly touch on this Guardian article, but I think there's a whole other layer here to this story that is not getting enough attention. What is happening to people in Arkansas, but especially what is happening to Arkansas's farmers. So hang tight with me. The article starts off, Donald Trump has denied federal disaster relief funds to the people of Arkansas, which saw dozens of people die from a series of deadly tornadoes last month. Legislators, including Republicans in Arkansas, are pleading with Trump to reconsider. Now, I want to remind you here that FEMA money is money that is allocated by Congress, and Trump does not have the authority to just turn off that spigot. He does not have the authority to stop the dispersal of funds that have already been allocated by Congress, but he has done it anyway. Given the scale of the disaster, the state's Republican governor, and I would add Trump loyalist and Nepo baby Sarah Huckabee, the governor rolling back child labor laws because she thinks 8th and 9th graders should be working in slaughterhouses. That governor, she's requested federal disaster aid as part of an emergency declaration, but Trump denied her. Where does your loyalty to Trump get you? Absolutely nowhere. As Huckabee has found out as she has appealed the denial, even though Trump has made statements such as, FEMA is a very expensive, in my opinion, mostly failed situation. Trump and Musk have already pulled back funding from disaster readiness, including cutting funding for NOAA, the folks who predict those tornadoes. But he's also withholding funding already allocated by Congress for disaster relief. He's fucking us on both ends. And while this is on brand for the cruelty and callousness of this regime, withholding disaster relief funds from communities that were leveled by tornadoes where dozens of people died, breaking basic social contracts we have here in the U.S., the suffering that Arkansas's farmers are experiencing is not solely as a result of Trump withholding disaster relief funds. We need to go back earlier in this regime. I know a lot has happened in less than 100 days. But remember when Elon Musk basically nuked USAID, making it sound like we shouldn't be in the business of giving food aid to starving people around the world. And Trumpers were like, fuck yeah, that sounds great. Let's let those little kids starve, especially if they're not white. Just pandered to all the nationalism and the racism together and the fact that this country hates children. But USAID, the food that they were shipping overseas, who grew all that food? America's farmers. I'm citing Christopher Jones, an Arkansas politician here, who cites that 6 of the largest farms in Arkansas all benefited tremendously from contracts for humanitarian food assistance for USAID. Heifer International, a charity that I have supported for more than 30 years, helps provide subsistence farmers around the world with livestock from rabbits to goats to chickens to cattle. They and their veterinarian training program are in Arkansas and face the loss of funding because of Trump. Sustainable aquaculture company Winrock International, which is in Arkansas, was funded 95% by USAID. Arkansas got a ton of money from USAID for agricultural research. For every dollar that USAID invested in ag research in Arkansas, they saw a return of $8.52. USAID was good business for Arkansas's farmers and ag researchers. But again, when they thought they were voting for Elon Musk to gut the government and turn off all of the welfare programs, they weren't really thinking about agricultural welfare. They weren't thinking about the way that we, as the public, fund all kinds of services and programs that are connected to the ag industry. They didn't really think it was going to hurt them. And we've seen farmers all across the country, including Arkansas, lose access to their grants from the Department of Energy, the FDA, the USDA, the EPA. We've also seen agriculture research in general be completely shut down with the gutting of the NIH, USDA. Disastrous consequences of Elon Musk taking money that was going to really important research, not just biomedical research, but also agricultural research, and taking that money and putting it right in his own pockets. All of that had already hurt Arkansas's farmers before we saw these floods. And then, according to the Arkansas Advocate, the floods on April 7th resulted in $78.9 million of crop-related flood damage. The University of Arkansas says that most of the damage was to the rice industry, but in total, 260,000 acres were flooded. That is fully 1/3 of the planted agricultural land in the state. Corn, rice, and soybean farmers are all heavily impacted. And what did I post about just a couple of days ago? Soybean farmers in the US are already in big trouble because of Trump's ridiculous tariffs with China. More than half of our soybean cultivation here in the US before this trade war went to China. And it looks like there's not going to be disaster relief for those farmers. As I said in a previous video, a lot of America's Trumper farmers really feel like they're going to hang in tight with all of the horrible things that Trump is doing because they believe that he is going to bail out the farmers. They are fine with him fucking over the rest of the country, every other vulnerable demographic. They're fine with the horrible things that he's doing because they think ultimately at the end, if they lose their contracts with USAID, if they don't get FEMA disaster relief funds, that the Trump will still cut the farmers a check. They don't care about everybody else as long as they feel protected. But they're in for a big shock. They are looking at what happened during the first Trump administration, and they're thinking, he bailed us out then. He screwed us over with the tariffs then, but then he cut us a check. Well, at least the ones of us who didn't lose our farms, because it's something like 1 in 5 farmers in Arkansas and other southern states who were screwed over by the first administration's disastrous tariffs. They didn't make it. But what they aren't understanding is that Trump is a lame duck president. Last time he was running for re-election and he wanted to buy the loyalty of farmers' votes. This time he wants to do away with elections altogether, or he understands that he's a lame duck. He has no incentive to bribe anybody. He doesn't need to buy your loyalty. He is just here to seek revenge for 2020. He doesn't need you, Trumper farmers, for his megalomaniacal vision anymore. You're not useful to him anymore. So no, he's not going to bail you out. How do I know he's going to screw y'all over? I mean, you need only look at the way that he has historically stiffed his electricians and construction workers over the years for his business. He didn't pay his bills from his presidential campaign. You just have to examine his career to know that. I mean, looking at the fact that the man is withholding federal emergency relief money from your state, where 40 people have died and communities have been flattened from tornadoes, where 1/3 of your agricultural land is flooded. If that's not enough, after denying you those federal funds, Trump has also now canceled a big USDA program. Grants that were already promised to small farmers around the country through the Climate Smart Commodities program, he is canceling those. Farmers were planning on that money. They had budgeted on that money. That money was promised to y'all already. And he's saying, no. I don't have to keep my word. I'm taking that money back. There's no, like I told you so, there's no schadenfreude for me watching this play out in Arkansas, a state that has been very right-leaning, heavily supportive of Trump, low-income state with almost 38% of the population on Medicaid, a state that the U.S. News and World Report ranks 47 out of 50 across 71 criteria, a state with a very low level of education, a low median income of just $36,000 a year, and staunch support for Trump and the billionaires who are screwing every working class person. To me, it's heartbreaking to watch a state that is mired in poverty continue to support someone who is actively making them suffer, who is going to reduce their quality of life even further. And yet they believe the lie that he's going to make Arkansas and the rest of America great again, whatever that means. They are being lied to and they still believe it. I don't know where the line is for them. honestly feel like screwing over the ag industry and withholding FEMA funds, that's not going to be a bridge too far for them. That's real sad.